Mercedes sued the creators of this film and won, and the authorities of the city of Marseille prevented filming. However, it did not prevent the film's success, especially since some kind of magic was happening on the set. As a result, the world saw a successful series of films about cars and investigations. Movies Inside Out presents Taxi is a 1998 French film. Its genre cannot be defined clearly because this film has comedy, action, adventure, mystery, and even romance. How Taxi is connected with The Fifth Element and Fast and Furious, why the creators chose little-known actors for the lead roles, and what a terrible incident shooting with the legendary Peugeot 406 led to. We'll tell you all about this in this video. Buckle up, we're starting. The creation story. In 1996, Luc Besson was working on the science fiction film The Fifth Element and was waiting for the studio to give the green light to shoot. He decided not to waste time and write a script for a simple action movie. According to the plot, the main character, a crazy Marseille taxi driver, is in love with speed, dreaming about racing and endlessly equipping his Peugeot 406 with various modifications to set new records, as if mocking the cops of Marseille, whom he really dislikes. Ironically, he helps an unlucky policeman investigate a case of a gang of robbers. Since Besson was too busy working on The Fifth Element, he decided to find another person to direct Taxi, remaining its producer. Luc presented the idea to the Gaumont Film Studio, with whom he usually collaborated, but they did not believe in the script and refused to work on the project. Then Besson turned to old friends, Michel and Laurent Petain, who headed a small production company, ARP Selection. They signed an agreement and started looking for a director. The choice fell on Gérard Perret, who hadn't directed a film in 15 years. But he had been directing commercials, including ones for Peugeot, which made him a good fit for the project given the car brand of the film's main character. However, at the beginning of his work on the film, he was injured during a horse ride. Therefore, he was temporarily replaced by Gerard Grochek. The latter shot most of the car chase scenes and, looking ahead, became the director of 3 sequels. During his sick leave, Perret checked the footage at the end of each shooting day to control the process. The script of Taxi was distinguished by a mixture of genres and styles. It is an action movie with racing, a romantic comedy, and a buddy movie, the plot of which is based on the friendship of 2 characters. At the same time, the film has the spirit of a classic French comedy, yet it was shot on a Hollywood scale. Casting. Famous French actors whose names were kept secret were offered the roles in the film, but they refused. Therefore, the creators had to explain to financiers why they had to choose from aspiring actors, saying it would be easy for a young audience to identify with them. Besides, young actors are always a good bet on the future. A little-known actor of Berber origin, Sami Nasseri, was chosen for the lead role of the taxi driver and former pizza delivery man Daniel Morales. Luc Besson had already worked with him in Lyon and knew about his dubious reputation. But for the role of crazy driver Daniel, Sami's temper was perfect. Sami even took a driving course on professional racing tracks to prepare for this role. The role of the unlucky policeman, Emilien, went to Frédéric Diefenthal, whose first big role was in 1995 in the film Douce France. But the picture went unnoticed. Daniel's girlfriend was played by Marion Cotillard. At that time, she was a promising but still little-known actress. Before that, she starred in TV series and unpopular films and worked on the theater stage. She even received a prestigious theatrical award for one of her roles, but her breakthrough came after Taxi premiered. Besson offered the role of Commissaire Gérard Gibert to Bernard Farcy. Before that, he played mostly minor roles. Petra, Emilien's colleague, was played by Swedish fashion model and aspiring actress Emma Sjöberg-Wiklund. Taxi became the 3rd project in her filmography. Edouard Montout, who played Emilien's colleague, also could not boast of much experience of working in cinema at that time. As for the German actor Richard Semmel, although he had more projects under his belt, his characters most often did not even have names. Manuela Guerri was chosen for the role of Emilien's mother, Camille. Unlike her colleagues on the set of Taxi, she was already an experienced actress but mostly starred on television. The filming process. For budgetary reasons, the filming location was in Marseille. Almost all the scenes were shot in the Old Town area in August in 27 days. Moreover, the city authorities did not permit night filming, so the team worked on the racing scenes during the day. By the way, director Gerard Perret tried to convey energy and speed using an unusual shooting angle. In addition, the chase scenes were filmed by the operators of Formula One. The highest speed of cars on the set was around 118 miles per hour. 110 cars were involved in the filming process, 39 of which were of French brand. 38 cars were smashed right on the set. However, the exact number of damaged vehicles was not disclosed. The lead role among the cars, the white Peugeot 406, was played by 6 vehicles at once. 2 of them were used to film the car from the outside, 1 was intended for filming inside the car, and the rest were modified by mechanics and decorators. For example, 1 car had an additional steering wheel for a professional racer. Also, they used a real racing car borrowed from a professional racing team for many scenes. Now, one of such cars is on display in the Peugeot Museum. According to the film's plot, a gang of German robbers drove Mercedes cars. Moreover, in the movie's final scene, there was the phrase, "Well, Bavarians, and ride tractors?" After the premiere, the German car manufacturer sued the creators of Taxi for this insult and received $2 million in compensation. There wasn't much computer graphics in the film. After all, Gerard Perret was trying to convey a real sense of speed. In addition, he wanted to focus on acting because, in his opinion, the most crucial thing in movies is feelings. An interesting moment occurred on the very first day of filming. Gerard Krachik, who replaced Perret, was filming the scene with the radar drop, lying on the sidewalk with a camera, when suddenly Laurent Petain, the film's producer, started expressing doubts about the project's success. Looking up at his colleague, Krachik assured him that the film would be perfect. He did not doubt it for a second. At that moment, neither he nor anyone else could imagine what success awaited them. But even then, Krachik felt there was some kind of magic going on between the city of Marseille, the main characters Daniel and Emilian, and the ideas of the film's creators. Almost all the license plate numbers in the film end with 13. This is the number of the Bouches-du-Rhône department, the prefecture of which is Marseille. There are even several references in the film. One of them is to the film's director. The name of the driving school, G. Perret, where Emilian takes driving lessons, is named after him. In addition, in the final scene before the race, Daniel puts on a helmet which, judging by the colors and logos of the sponsors, belongs to the French Formula One racing driver Olivier Panis. He was not a champion, but in 1996, he won his first and only victory at the Monaco Grand Prix. Perhaps that's why the creators of Taxi wanted to pay tribute to him. By the way, the film mentions another Formula One racing driver, 4-time world champion Alain Prost. According to the story, a policeman who was on a stakeout with Emilian bought a steering wheel from him. One thing that unites the French film Taxi with the American film Pulp Fiction is the soundtrack, or rather the song Miserlou. In Taxi, it sounds at the very beginning. This folk song from the Eastern Mediterranean region has a rich history dating back to the beginning of the 20th century. Popular films gave this song new life. Moreover, Black Eyed Peas used a sample from Miserlou in their song Pump It, and the latter, in turn, can be heard in Taxi 4. Movie mistakes and errors. There are many mistakes in this movie, as there are cars that Daniel overtook in his taxi, so let's try to count them all. During the film, the taxi's interior changes its appearance several times. The driver's license training car has a plate that reads 2265TN13. But later in the film, the Korean taxi has the exact same plate. By the way, during the same scene, Emilian alternates between holding a black coffee mug and a white plastic cup in his hands. At the beginning of the film, Daniel puts his hand on Lily's shoulder, but from a distance camera view, they stand without touching each other. At the same time, it changes a couple of times between shots. When the main character drives a man to the airport in one of the shots, you can see there's only one man in the car, the driver. In addition, during this trip, the taxi passes a dark green Mini Cooper. But 2 shots later, when the radar falls to the ground, the taxi passes the same car again. Another interesting moment is when Emilian puts the police light on top of Daniel's car, closing the door on the wire. But in the next shot, this does not prevent the hero from pulling the police light through the window. By the way, in the same scene, you can see the reflection of the camera and the cameraman in the police light. And there are several similar moments in the film. So you can see the reflection of the boom operator in the trunk door when the German guy opens his car's trunk for the chief of police. The camera, covered with a checkered blanket, can be seen inside a blue car hit by one of the Mercedes towards the end of the film. A little later, a tow cable is seen attached to a red car, and then you can notice a ramp in front of Mercedes that flips two cars. In addition, in two scenes, when the characters are supposed to be completely naked, we can see them wearing underwear. The first time is when Daniel gets out of bed after Lily, and the second time is when Emilian drops a towel in front of Petra in his office. In addition, the damage the car sustained during chases magically disappears. For example, the wing mirror on one of the Mercedes reappears after Daniel knocks it off at the start of a street race. During the last chase, the Mercedes hits a red car with its left side, but after that, no damage is visible on it. By the way, at the same time, you can notice that the taxi sometimes has a panoramic roof, but sometimes not. In addition, at the end of this scene, we can see that there are no passengers in the cars. Only the drivers are inside. Moreover, when Daniel kisses Lily before the final battle, you can see that the other man in the car is Emilian's deputy. But according to the plot, the other man should be Emilian himself. When two police cars rush out on a mission and crash into each other, the barriers move and wobble, showing that they are fake and not actually cemented to the ground. And there are many more inconsistencies in the film. So when Daniel says they should have been chasing a Mercedes truck instead of a passenger car, he makes a mistake. The robbers used a Renault truck. We can hear a horn when an enraged Daniel slams his hand on the steering wheel. But in Peugeot cars, the horn button is located on the side of the understeering switch. As for the next mistake, only experts noticed it. Before the first robbery, when the sniper in Emilian's car racks the charging handle on his rifle, it locks into its rear position instead of sliding forward. It means he had an empty magazine. At the beginning of the film, Emilian fails his driver's license test because he rammed a driving school car into a shop. But in real life, this would not have happened. In France, such cars are equipped with pedals on the passenger side so that the driving instructor can avoid such situations. Those were the mistakes we were able to find in the film Taxi. Have you noticed other inconsistencies? Write them in the comments. Deleted scenes. Nothing is known about the deleted scenes because we have only one final cut of the film. But in some countries, the moment when the main character smoked something was censored. Worldwide recognition. The premiere of Taxi took place in April 1998, and the film became the fourth highest grossing film of the year in France, collecting more than $39 million. Around 6.4 million viewers watched it domestically. The worldwide box office total was $44.5 million, which was many times higher than the budget of $8.7 million. The film also had very good TV ratings. When Taxi was first shown on French TV, it was watched by 12 million viewers. The critics gave the film favorable reviews. For example, the BBC critic called the script simply amazing. In France, the critics praised Luc Besson's work, noting his career transformation from director to producer of high-budget films. In 1999, Taxi received 7 César Awards nominations: Best Film, Best Director, Best Sound, Most Promising Actor for Sami Nassiri's role, and Most Promising Actress for Marion Cotillard's role. The film won 2 of them, Best Sound and Best Editing. The picturesque views of Marseille, an exciting script, dynamic racing scenes, and a good soundtrack brought Taxi true success. And of course, the audience fell in love with the self-confident Daniel, played by Sami Nassiri, the naive Emilian, played by Frédéric Diefenthal, thanks to the excellent acting and light, lively dialogues written by Luc Besson. The satirically exaggerated difference between the characters enhances the comedic side of the film. While Daniel is a really good driver, Emilian failed the driver's license test 8 times. In addition, Emilian embodies the professional incompetence of the Marseille police as a whole, and it reflected the skeptical attitude of the French people towards their law enforcement agencies at that time. The film became so popular that it turned into an entire franchise. Gerard Krachik directed 3 sequels, the budget grew from film to film, and the chases and special effects became more impressive. At the same time, jokes gradually became too exaggerated. The main cast of Taxi returned to their roles in the second part, but the filming process was overshadowed by the death of the cameraman. Due to an error during the filming in the tunnel, a Peugeot 406 hit a member of the film crew. He died soon after from his injuries. His assistant was also injured with both of his legs broken. After the tragic incident, several trials took place where the defendants were Luc Besson, Gerard Krachik, and stunt coordinator Remy Julien. Found guilty of causing death by negligence, the latter was given a 1-year suspended sentence and fined. However, it did not prevent the filming of the following parts of the franchise. Moreover, a world-class star, Sylvester Stallone, appeared in the 3rd film. The 4th film was less successful in terms of audience reaction, but it still grossed well. Interestingly, Taxi has two remakes, American and Indian. There are also several video games based on the film. Moreover, in 2014, the TV series Taxi Brooklyn was released in the United States. In 2018, the audience saw the fifth and most unsuccessful part of the franchise, and this is not surprising. After all, the script was not written by Luc Besson, and the only actors from the original cast were Bernard Farcy and Edouard Montout. Director Frank Gastambide played the lead role, but the result of his work brought neither high ratings nor impressive box office success. Nassiri even stated that Taxi 5 was filmed by incompetent people. He wondered how Besson, being an intelligent man and a good businessman, entrusted them with the franchise. The actor rightly noted that the French audience did not understand why he was not in the film. No one understood that. He also stressed that he was ready to return to his character, but only with the participation of the old team. Even though the talks about filming the sixth part have been going on for a long time, no one knows if it will ever be filmed. But despite the unsuccessful fifth installment, the Taxi film series remains on the radar. It is difficult to overestimate the influence of the first film on French cinema. It launched a wave of commercially successful movies and introduced the future Oscar winner Marion Cotillard to the world audience. Luc Besson's project influenced the careers of other actors too. After the success of Taxi, Bernard Farcy focused primarily on comedic roles. As for Sami Nassiri, he remains a favorite of the public, even though instead of other memorable roles, he has many arrests and scandals to his credit. This French film even had an impact on Hollywood. The spirit of Taxi is felt, for example, in the Fast and Furious franchise. But there, the funny taxi driver was replaced by a brutal street racer, and the policeman in the American version was more professional. Speaking of Fast and Furious, have you already watched our video about the creation of this action movie about the world of street racing? And which part of the Taxi film series is your favorite? Write your answer in the comments.